Hey everyone, ever been told your dream was too big? That you should just play it safe and stick to what you know? If you've ever had someone look you in the eye and say you'll never make it, then this story is for you. We're diving into the journey of a small-town girl with a big city dream, a ton of rejection, and a comeback that literally stopped traffic. This is about the power of quiet confidence and what happens when you refuse to give up on yourself. If you're rooting for the underdog, you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of our inspiring stories. And let us know in the comments who told you that you couldn't do it and what you're doing to prove them wrong. Now, let's get started. The dust in Harlan Falls, Iowa, had a way of settling on everything, especially on dreams. Kate Larson felt it coating the back of her throat as she stood in front of the full-length mirror tacked to her closet door. At 5'11", she'd always been told she was lanky and all elbows and knees. Her mom called her willowy, but in Harlan Falls, willowy just meant you were better at reaching the top shelf than playing point guard. She held a torn-out page from Vogue, her fingertips smudging the glossy image of a woman who looked like she'd been carved from marble in confidence. Kate's reflection, in her faded jeans and a simple tank top, seemed to waver in comparison, a pale echo from the wrong side of the world. Still staring at those pictures, Katie? Her brother, Jake, leaned against the doorframe, a good-natured smirk on his face. You gonna be late for your shift at the diner? Hank's gonna have a cow. I'm going, Kate said, folding the page and tucking it into her journal. Her inspiration log, she called it. It was filled with models, poses, and lighting notes she'd studied online. You know, for every one of those girls, Jake said, his tone shifting from teasing to something closer to pity, there's 10,000 who tried and ended up waiting tables anyway. Just be realistic, okay? Dad's already talking about that manager position opening up at the plant. Realistic. It was the town's favorite word. It was what her high school guidance counselor had said when Kate mentioned modeling. A lovely dream, Catherine, but perhaps not a realistic career path. Have you considered cosmetology? It was what her friends said when she spent her savings on a portfolio shoot with a photographer from Des Moines. That's a lot of money for some fancy pictures, Kate. The worst, though, had been Travis Miller, her high school boyfriend, the town's football star who'd stayed to coach. He'd looked at her photos, a frown on his handsome, familiar face. I don't get it, Kate, he'd said, handing them back like they were contaminated. You're a natural beauty. Why do you want to be all done up like that? It's not you. You're a Harlan Falls girl. This modeling thing, it's a long shot. You'll never be successful in that world. It'll just break your heart. You'll never be successful. The words had become a wall, built brick by every doubting voice in her life. But behind that wall, a small, stubborn fire still burned. A year later, that fire had led her to Chicago. The city was a shock to the system. A glorious, terrifying symphony of noise and light and movement. Her small apartment was a shoebox. Her diner job was a grind. But every weekend, she was hitting the pavement, portfolio in hand, going to every open call she could find. The rejections were a brutal, repetitive chorus. Too commercial. Not commercial enough. Your look is a bit provincial. Next, she'd walk out of gleaming high-rises feeling 2 inches tall, the echo of "next" ringing in her ears. She'd call her mom, who always offered a soft, "You can always come home, honey," which felt like another kind of rejection. She'd see the other girls at the calls, with their sharp, knowing eyes and their posse of managers, and feel that familiar Harlan Falls dust settling on her soul. One rainy Tuesday, after a particularly dismissive casting director had told her she lacked energy, Kate sat on a bench, her soaked portfolio dripping onto the pavement. The wall of doubt felt higher than ever. Maybe they were all right. Maybe Travis was right. She was just a small-town girl, chasing a stupid fantasy. She was about to get up and trudge back to her apartment when her phone buzzed. It was an email. The subject line made her heart stop. Call back. Aura Cosmetics campaign. She'd gone to the casting a week ago, a Hail Mary pass for a major, inclusive new brand. She'd almost not gone. She'd walked in, tired, expecting another "next," but something had shifted. Maybe it was the exhaustion stripping away her nerves. She'd just been herself. Quiet, yes. But she'd looked the photographer in the eye and let her own tentative hope show through. The email asked her to come back for a final test shoot. The final 3. Kate looked up from her phone, the rain cooling her hot cheeks. The wall of never was still there, but for the first time she saw a crack of light shining through. The Aura Cosmetics studio was a different universe. It was all soft, natural light, hushed voices, and the calming scent of lavender. There were no barked orders, no dismissive glances. The creative director, a serene woman named Isabel with a sharp silver bob, had shaken her hand and said, "We're not looking for a mask, Kate. We're looking for a soul." The other 2 finalists were stunning. One was a statuesque redhead with a laugh that filled the room. The other was an edgy, androgynous model with a portfolio full of high-fashion tear sheets. Kate felt the old insecurity creep in. She was the girl from the diner, the one with the provincial look. The test shoot began. The theme was authentic light. They were shot against a simple white backdrop, with minimal makeup. The photographer, a gentle man named Marco, didn't give her complex poses. "Just breathe, Kate," he'd murmur. "Think of something that makes you feel quiet and strong." She closed her eyes. She didn't think of Vogue pages or runways. She thought of the silence of a Iowa sunrise over a cornfield. She thought of the stubborn strength it took to drive away from Harlan Falls, while everyone waved goodbye, their faces full of doubt. She thought of all the nexts and nevers, and let them fuel not her fear, but her focus. When she opened her eyes, she looked directly into the lens, and for the first time, she wasn't trying to be a model. She was just being Kate, a girl with a dream, unedited. A week later, the call came. It was Isabel. "Kate," she said, her voice warm. "The campaign is yours. You had a light, the others didn't. It's quiet, but it's unbreakable." Kate slid down the wall of her tiny apartment, the phone clutched to her chest, sobbing tears of pure, unadulterated joy. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. The actual campaign shoot was a whirlwind. There were hairstylists, makeup artists, racks of beautiful, simple clothes. She was the face of Aura's new Essential Glow line. The day the billboards went up, the marketing team sent her a photo. There she was, 20 feet tall, on a digital billboard in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile. Her face, with its sprinkle of freckles they decided to keep, was serene. Her smile was gentle but sure. The tagline read, "Your light, authentic." She stared at the picture on her phone, her own face looking back at her, a beacon of everything she'd been told she couldn't be. It felt surreal. It felt like a miracle. But the real moment, the one she hadn't even dared to imagine, was happening 300 miles away. It was a regular Thursday morning in Harlan Falls. Travis Miller was on his way to the high school gym, a travel mug of coffee in his hand. He was thinking about practice drills and the upcoming game against their rivals. He stopped at the town's only major intersection, waiting for the light to change. His gaze drifted absently to the new billboard that had been erected a week ago. It was for some fancy makeup brand. He never paid them any mind. But something about the face on this one caught his eye. There was a familiarity in the calm gray eyes, the curve of the smile. The coffee mug slipped from his hand, hitting the pavement with a plastic crack, spraying brown liquid across his shoes. It was Kate, his Kate, the one he'd told would never make it. Her face was 20 feet tall, glowing down on the main drag of the town she'd left behind. She looked magnificent. She looked successful. She looked like she'd taken every single one of his doubts and turned them into rocket fuel. He just stood there, the light turning green, then red again, cars honking behind him. He couldn't look away. At the diner, Kate's mom was clearing a booth when a customer gasped, "Martha, look, isn't that your Katie?" Martha Larson turned. The billboard was visible from the diner's big front window. She put a hand to her heart, her eyes filling with tears. It wasn't just that her daughter was beautiful. It was that she looked so sure of herself. She had proven everyone, including her own worried mother, wonderfully, spectacularly wrong. Jake saw it on his way to the plant. He pulled his truck over and just stared, a slow grin spreading across his face. "Well, I'll be damned," he whispered to himself. "You really did it, you stubborn thing." News traveled fast in a small town. By noon, everyone in Harlan Falls knew. The girl they'd dismissed, pitied, or quietly doubted was now the town's most famous export. Her face was the first thing you saw when you drove in. That evening, Kate's phone blew up. Text messages from old friends, DMs from people she hadn't spoken to in years, all with some version of, "OMG, I saw you," and "So proud of you." Then, a message from Travis. It was simple. "Saw the billboard today. You were always too big for this town. I was wrong. So wrong. Congrats, Kate." She read it and felt nothing. No anger, no vindication. Just a quiet acknowledgement. His opinion was a relic from a past life, a small-town echo that had finally faded out. She walked to her window, looking out at the glittering Chicago skyline. Down there, somewhere, was her face on a billboard. But the real victory wasn't out there. It was in here, in the quiet of her own heart. It was the victory of the girl who had believed in the whisper of a dream, long after everyone else had told her to be quiet. She had believed in herself when no one else did. And now, the whole world could see it.